All right, so I want to talk a little bit about where you see the future going. So what new capabilities are you seeing on the horizon for SoCs like Snapdragon? And what are some of the technical challenges that are facing designers of future SoCs?
So as far as the future of these processors go, I think it's more where they're going that's going to be one of the challenges for designers. So much like the processors and CPUs move from your desktop into a phone in your pocket, now these mobile SoCs in your smartphone are finding their ways into wearables that are, whether it's a smartwatch on your wrist, they're being pushed into smart cars. Your car and your refrigerator are going to, potentially be communicating to one another in the Internet of Things. So we're talking about even smaller thermal budgets in some cases than what you have in your smartphone. And another different aspect is you're not designing as much a general purpose processor as one chip that does one thing very well. And that can be either in performance or in power, but it's not as all-encompassing, which can be easier, but also a challenge since you have to do that one thing so well. Another aspect, I think, is because most of these chips now are doing something very enabling an experience where it's not necessarily the floating point performance that matters. Whereas when you're first creating these chips, years ago, you could design to that spec benchmark, and everything else would kind of fall into place. But now designing for a use case, a user experience, why a user should actually care, it usually isn't measured in terms of some synthetic benchmark. So being able to simulate a synthetic benchmark is very easy. Being able to simulate how a user is using this device is much more complicated. So it takes a very different mindset, and I think it's a bit more challenging for the architects in the earlier stages to determine what trade-offs they need to make in order to hit that user experience as opposed to hit a given benchmark score.
So I want to ask you one more follow-up question about that. So are there other places, we think of Snapdragon being used in smartphones and tablets. So are there some other more interesting places where you find Snapdragon SoCs besides on your phone or in your tablet?
Oh yes. So today, for example, in most of the Android Wear watches that are available, they have one of our lower-end Snapdragon chips inside. They will also sell chips to the embedded space. If you look at, I think our one of our keynotes last year, there's robots roaming around the stage, with Snapdragon inside. So this is all outside of your pocket and smartphone and into more specialized equipment. Some of it's wearable, some of it's embedded, and automotive is also something that's, I think, in the future for many chip makers. Now that these, whether it's smart driving cars, whether it's being able to have communications integrated inside, even built-in infotainment, as opposed to just a DVD player in the head seat, now you have a full embedded computer potentially. So there's many different places for Snapdragon and these sort of products to go in the future.
Adam Caron from Qualcomm. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.